Lily. And Lily belonged to a lady who contacted me via eBay and said she loved my dolls and she wanted to know if I would do one for her from her original doll. And so I took on the challenge. And I love her. Again with the love and the dolls. Like I said, I wouldn't do them if I didn't love them. But let me tell you why I love her. She's beautiful. Her sculpt is really pretty and it was so great to work with. And it gets some really nice shading in it. And big face, really big face. Kind of big for her body, which is kind of funny. But other than that, I don't know who does these proportions on these dolls. It's crazy. But hey, it definitely features the face. I nailed this wig. It is amazing. Now this was so matted at the top. I was able to work with it and make it into like a updo kind of thing right here. And then that really hid the worst of it. And then the better hair was on the bottom. And all I had to do was kind of trim out the frizz. And some of these are still a little bit frizzy. And then the fascinator kind of hides a little bit of it. But I, you know, typically like this hair, you see that little frizz in it. I was able to trim that out and kind of, wow, I mean, it came together really nice. And then the back of the head where, I mean, it looked fine. I mean, I didn't have to cover it up, but it did cover up where that little bun starts and stuff. So fairies don't show up at my house in the middle of the night and make dolls. That would be me working. And just the time I put in like process of making the hands was well over an hour. It's crazy. So anyway, originally I had dyed her dress. It did not take the dye, so I painted it. And in painting it, it's a wash. You can't like paint it because it does get it really stiff. You can actually hear how stiff it is. It's like it's starched. But what happens is once it gets a wrinkle in it, it's there. That's why I don't really like doing it that way. Much like a starched shirt. So in the painting and washing, sometimes you think it's taken better than it has. And, you know, I painted it and then I went back and go, well, that's kind of missed right there. But when it was all said and done, I don't mind that look at all. She's not perfect. She's still, you know, a zombie, you know, and she still has to have that very distressed look. So versus her being blackened to make her look more distressed, she's actually faded. And I think that worked out really nice. So this would be like she was laying in her coffin and her coffin just kind of seeped water in or something. You can make up a really good story. So the dress was originally too short. So what I did is I made a skirt, you know, out of tulle. It gave her extra body to her dress, but it also gave me a layer to sew lace on. So this lace right here came from her original hat. And I did not have enough to gather, but I don't think being this kind of tucked under the bottom, I did the best I could with what I had, and I think it worked out really well. I mean, it's just kind of finished off giving me that extra length, because this is how short that dress was, and that's a good 2 inches from really short. Her bustle, she did not send her with the stand, so now I got her pinned in better. So now I was able to add her a really nice stand. It's an older stand. It is heavy duty. So she needs one because she's a little bit taller. Most of my dolls are about 16. I don't know. She may be 20 inches tall. I'll have to measure her. 19 or 20. Anyway, her hair's not truly black. It's really a dark brown. And I wish it had been black. But it's not that noticeable. It's just the lighting here really, it is noticeable in this lighting. My son was just here, and he was looking at the dolls that I've done so far. And I said, which one do you like the best? And so he looked at him and he pointed out different things he liked about my techniques and stuff. And he's so sweet. And then he pointed at this one. He goes, I really like this one. I said, why? And he said, what about that one? And he says, well, I like her hair. And, you know, I do all my little dolls in here. And he goes, but it really works with this doll. It's really shiny. She's really stood out from the group. And I told him the story that, you know, this was done for a person. This was her doll. And when she grew up with this doll and, you know, had it when she was younger. And it means a lot to her. So to be able to salvage all of it, except for one thing. I lost one part of her. It was a tiny little flower in a bow, and I think it went down my drain in my mop sink. I don't know where it is. I can't find it anywhere. And now I realized it was around when I was dyeing and rinsing and stuff, it kind of disappeared. So one thing about this doll I had to do, I had sewn this dress together and it did not hang right. And it was because this side of the dress was actually in the original dress was shorter. And I really couldn't tell until I, you know, sewed it versus pinned it, that it was so off. So I had to take it all apart back to, I mean, this skirt was all sewn together. One thing I did, I should mention, I took her original dress and flipped it around backwards to make this dress and get this look that I wanted. And her little, I can't think of my words when I'm talking, her little bustier is made out of her hat brim, and it was very simple to make. But I let it because it was lined, and so it already gave it that stiffness. But when I painted the rest with the wash, I actually painted this with the fabric paint, even though it's getting a little wrinkle, but it is stiff. And then I added these little, just the hook parts of a, you know, I mean, I'm sorry, the loop parts of a hook. And little fasteners, I guess I don't just call them. And they will straighten out. They're loosely sewn. I had to kind of loosely sew them because they're so hard to keep straight. And then when you start pulling, they would get all warped. Oh, it was so frustrating. But I can kind of work them back into place if I was that picky. And which I am. So I put those on to give it that, you know, cinched in. And this was actually, you really can't see it very clearly, but that's the seam right there of the, oh, come on, please. That's the seam of the original hat coming down right here. So that's why I just did the top part. And then it ties in the back in theory, you know, but whatever. If she has a bow in the back, you'll have to check that out. And we'll get to that later. So one thing I did do, I gave her this lovely little lace insert. I didn't sew it in. I just kind of tuck it in because you can option to, maybe she wants to be a little bit more showy. In making her dress, there was a lot of stuff I really couldn't get down to sew. I did a nice little tiny top stitch on this just to keep it, tuck you back in, just to keep it tucked in, you know, folded in. But I just took the very corners of that off to give her this nice décolletage kind of thing going. And her little shoulders, this will kind of expose a little bit more. And then I was so excited to give a doll a choker with this. I don't remember ever having done that. I think she's the only doll I've ever done that to. This is pretty cute. So anyway, you can just pull this out, and then you have her boobs. I did go ahead and give her black nails. Originally, I had not, and then I decided something didn't look right, and I think she was so fancy. She needed, you know, her nails done. Now, she came with these long strips of lace, and I cut them up, and I just used a portion of it, like a little bow-looking thing, of lace for her sleeves, and I added a little bow to them, and then the rosette. And then I used the other pieces. I'll go ahead and give you a little twirl here, honey. Back to the side. And I put a stiffener on here, and also put shiny paint, gloss. Paint wasn't that shiny, but it was the gloss Mod Podge to give it like kind of a rubbery, you know, this is the netting that holds it together, but I wanted it to be firm so you could actually like poke it out like this, so it's more flexible. And then I made her a rose out of tulle, and then I used her last little scrap of lace that I had from her original dress, and I just kind of added it to her fascinator. And then on her back, this is her bow, and this is where her original flowers were glued on, and whenever I dyed it, I had pulled them off, and I was going to sew them back on because I hate hot gluing stuff. And I had hot glue them because there's so much glue on the bow that would not come off that satin. I just had to just go ahead and do it. And what happened when I did her dress, even though you can't see it, I just like to do it. This is her dress backwards. Oh, come on, get your hat out the way. And I drew her like shading like this really wicked backbone. Because it's just something to do, even though you really don't see it. I just like to do that stuff. So this is the actual, oh, let me get some more light on it. This is the front of her dress, so I just switched it all around. And when I was working with the dress, it just fell apart. It was glued together, so it just fell apart, which was good because I actually made this in the process come out more and overlapped the dress back a little bit. But like I said, I had stitched all this up and it was not hanging correctly. So in order to really get a good hang and separate and do what I wanted to do, I had to tack it. These are just like tacked in place here and there and sewn to the netting really, really, really helped. I've never done anything like this, and it was great to get this experience to do it. it was all like a practice shot, and I think it just turned out really fun, and I love her to pieces. I'm just so proud of her. And as I've sent pictures to the buyer, she just loves her. I mean, she has just gone on about her. So that makes me very happy that she's really pleased with her. And anyway, she's, like I said, look at that profile. She's really, really a pretty doll. It actually has really pretty ears. So that was one thing. I wanted her hair to just kind of show up. I didn't give her any sideburns. Oh, well. Anyway, I didn't want to glue her face because you'd have to glue them down on her. And I didn't want to paint on it. I kind of actually like it loose, and because her hair's going to cover most of that up. But I do like to show off her pretty ears. But I said, I'm totally amazed that her wig did so well. One thing about it, and this is how I get so matted, is it does have a few mats, is that it does catch on the lace so easily. And then it's the best way to get it off, folks. Cut it off. Don't keep pulling. Just get some scissors and snip it off. So that's Lily.